All right. Hello, we're here. Michelle Greenwell with MacKenzie Greenwell and Dance Debut, and this is part of the 2020 Self-Care Retreat for Dancers and Teachers. And MacKenzie and I have been chatting extensively about our experiences growing up in the studio atmosphere, becoming teachers within the studio atmosphere, what it's been like to be in competitive work, and then what it's been like to be in show work. And we've just been reflecting a little bit on how times have changed, but also how our approach to self-care within the dance studio is going to be different as we're confined to square boxes and not being able to touch each other. And the way we need to connect with each other is going to be different. But it also means we have a new way of growing and learning. And so we wanted to just share a little bit of our dialogue and just give you some different ways to think about how you might be going forward with your dance training or with the way that you're going to be offering training for others. So thank you, MacKenzie, for participating in the interviews.
Absolutely.
So we were reflecting on how we came up through the system of practicing to be in a show or a recital or to be in a competitive atmosphere where we were doing choreography to be ready for showtime and what that meant. Do you want to just talk a little bit about some of the insights that we brought up with that?
I'm just trying to remember what we had spoke about, and just give me one second. I opened up the window and the traffic started. Yeah, just growing up competitively, and this wasn't something that I really realized until reflection, looking back, and how, you know, we're trained in the studio, and we get these dances ready for competition to go and be judged, and in that sense deemed whether we're good or not, good enough or not quite there, or someone else is better. And you know, you don't think anything of it really when you're in it, but the mental effect that really has on you, because if you're not the best dancer, you know, you kind of end up feeling defeated. If you are the best dancer, your idea of yourself is inflated, and all of these components, when you arrive to the professional world, don't help you be one with yourself and ready to actually take on the reality of what it means to be a professional dancer, or just someone who chooses to be creative in life. And so really just, you know, thinking about how it's been done and how it's been done for a long time, but how with this downtime and with the changes that we're forced to be making because of the COVID period that we're living in, we have an opportunity to almost take, you know, a step back and see if there's a better way for us to be doing it, a way that promotes the individual, that you know, puts creativity over technique, and really allows us to maybe bring dancers up ready to continue to create and continue to be ambassadors for Canada and the arts, and grow the art scene that is very strong, but really could be even bigger and better. And as we, you know, as funding will be sent in different ways as they try and recover the economy, how we can position ourselves to be important to receive that funding, and to make sure that it's known how important the arts really are, especially to get through times like these. As we all turn, you know, being stuck at home, to Netflix and any video or music, you know, we all turn to arts when we have nothing else to do. And I think sometimes we forget that that's what we're watching, is we're watching people who have you know, walked a different path of life, and now are giving us joy when we need it most. So I think that's kind of where we had gone from. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to reflect on. But yeah.
We were talking a little bit too about the energy connection that happens. And when you are preparing for showtime, a lot of times dancers are facing the mirror. So they're self-critiquing themselves in the mirror, or others are critiquing them in the mirror. Also, you're comparing yourself in your lines, and you have a external environment that you're really responding to, and not so much on the internal side. But as we're looking at the way that the classroom studio space has to be set up in squares and defined spaces, that changes the way we can face. We no longer have to really face the mirror if we're not worried about that choreography being done in a particular way. We can start to see each other and interact with each other, even from a distance.
Well, I imagine most of the squares are still set up so that, you know, the people in the back squares are in windows so they can still see themselves. But yes, I think the biggest takeaway, and actually I was just working with a student, and we're finishing up a dance piece that we created for her grandmother, and it was something that we decided to do together. And it's been very special to create. But we're at the point now where we're talking about shape and facing, and, you know, she's been learning it through a video, so I obviously have to stand a specific way, and then she sees it a specific way. And so now we're talking about the different ways that we can move. And when you're coming up, you know, especially for competition, it's, I think, 3 rules, you know, like, don't put your back to the audience. That's number 1. You know, they don't want to see your behind. You know, look up and smile to the back of the room, or make sure that you're staring at the judges the whole time. And what it creates is this very, very linear, or I don't know if that's the correct word, but very static dancing, where we're always facing this direction. And then, you know, oh, we're going to the side now, so we turn 90 degrees and then we travel that way. And it's a very boxy look, and it doesn't really promote the sharing of energy. And I didn't really understand that until I, you know, got on stage as a professional and working with people that I had so much fun with on stage, where you know, sometimes maybe it was too much the other way, and my focus wasn't necessarily out to the front. It was to the energy that was really being shared on stage. But usually, from an audience perspective, that's way more fun to watch anyways, because they vibe off that energy. They can feel the transfer of that energy from us to each other, but then it, you know, it grows bigger and bigger, and it overflows, and the audience gets brought into that energy. And it's not something that we really talk about in the competition world. You know, you say smile at each other, you know, make sure you look at each other and check in with each other, but there's no focus on really connecting with each other and teaching from right at the beginning that, you know, that everyone that you're dancing with is important around you, and to share and feed those energies can be so healing, but it also can really help you understand more about yourself. So I think I'm kind of getting off a little bit here, but that's really a big difference. And you know, when you go see a professional stage show, no one is facing the front, and line changes aren't happening like that. That just doesn't exist. So I don't know where the disconnect happened, where it was like, this is how we dance as we all get brought up, and then now you're professional, now you have to relearn how to perform and how to really create and use 360 degrees of a space. That there aren't rules. You can break every single one of them. You can jump off the stage and join the audience if you want. Actually, one of my favorite performances I ever went to, and now obviously this wasn't a dance show, but it might as well have been, and it was John Baptiste and Stay Human. And they were performing in Toronto at a very proper, you know, music hall where you dress up and you sit in your seat. And he, at one point, the lights go off and his band emerged in every part of the hall. And we were on the second balcony, and the tuba player was literally sitting next to me when the lights came back up. And the whole room just erupted into a party. You know, the music surrounded us, and all these people who were sitting there politely to watch this musician were now forced to be a part of the music, to feel the music. And then he brought people back to the stage and invited them up onto the stage, and the lights stayed up. And just to break down the formal and allow for there to be that much fun, I don't think there was one person who would have been upset going home from that concert who didn't feel the effect of sharing with each other as humans in that experience and getting that energy. I know as I walked home, we were just vibrating and couldn't stop talking about how amazing that was. And it's like, well, yeah, obviously. And why don't we do that from the beginning? You know, if you said to kids, you can go run up the aisles and you can sit next to your parents and keep dancing, I'm sure they would take the opportunity. So that's, you know, a big part of it, and rethinking how it is that we can create that connection. So as we're in those squares, you know, and kids are forced not to touch each other, not to go near their friends, not, you know, you're not supposed to do that. You know, there's a great opportunity there to teach them how to connect with each other from a distance like that, and to still transfer that energy from one another, and to create that magic. And if, you know, we were to focus on that for, you know, a year, because let's say the regular year isn't coming back and competitions won't happen, or, you know, just the normal isn't going to be, well, you imagine if for a year we focused on sharing in that with each other, and what dances and what creations would emerge when we return to more of a state of normal. And I think that's, you know, hugely important right now, because if there are any dancers who, you know, have dreams of becoming professional as an artist, that world's going to look a lot different post COVID. Mm-hmm. And if they get an opportunity to start thinking creatively and start thinking differently, and us as educators, you know, lead them in doing so and help make that change, you know, we're setting them up to really transform the landscape of dance and art around the world. You know, that could really make a huge difference. And I think it's not something that we talk about, you know, when we're forced with change like this. You know, we want to hold on to what has kept us safe, and we want to, you know, be strong like that. But maybe this is the time that we just kind of break down all those walls, break down all those support systems, and say we can do it better, and we can really lift this up, take it to a new level. And I'm optimistic that that is going to happen. But I think that if we start this dialogue and really get people talking about it, it could help and make a huge change for everyone.
We had a little bit of reflection as well on just how dancers, kids are feeling as they're coming into these dance studios, knowing they have all these rules and restrictions. and I've got to stand in my square, and how am I going to do that? And we were talking about, you know, everybody comes from a different home, and they talked about COVID differently, and they talked about how you take care of yourself will all be different conversations. And now you have a class that's come together, and each person is feeling something different. And some people can be very anxious. Some people can be totally fine with everything. The shy ones might be shyer. The confident ones might actually not be confident anymore. So just being really able to take time with our classes and navigate these emotions that we haven't had to experience before, but will be so important to how we're going to perform or dance. We have to identify that they're there and be able to honor them and honor the person that we are, and be able to let people express themselves a little bit. And we were chatting before about, you know, sometimes you're always in that rush to get into the warm-up, learn the trick, do the choreography, whatever it is that is important for the day. But to take these first few classes that we're going into summer camp or into the fall classes, and to be able to just sit back a little bit and let the students lead us in what do they need and how can we help them, and how can we use dance to make them feel comfortable. So is there anything you wanted to add or reflect on with that?
Yeah, I believe I said I'm not envious of the teachers who have to get back in those classrooms.
Tough job.
You know, I've consciously stepped out of the classroom setting because the way I like to work is more effective in a one-on-one instance. And fortunately, because of beautiful things like Zoom, I've been able to continue working in that way. And the reason I like to work that way is it allows me really to focus on the needs of my student and identify what it is that is going to make them, you know, understand, help them, you know, get past the block, or just work through, you know, something that may be going on in their personal life that's going to allow them to reach further in their creative work. And I think, and you know, the lesson that we've been given because of COVID is that it's very good to slow down. I know for a lot of us, it was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, I can't do anything, but like, what do I do? And you're looking to do something. And I hope that when these studios start to get to return as the phases roll out, that it's not a rush to figure out how to get back to where we were, to catch up to where we left off, but it's more of a deep breath and a catch up of how everyone is doing. You know, we forget sometimes as we get older, and if we don't reflect back to our younger selves often, and we lose those memories, but we forget how much we feel at those younger ages and how aware you really are of your surroundings, whether you know, physically are aware or if it's just inside. And it's going to be different for each and every person. And you know, if you come from a home that has been very safe and is a very open teaching house that has explained to you and walked you through what is going on to make the real world that is right now seem less scary, you might be okay walking into that room. But if you come from a house that maybe you've been a little bit more sheltered and you haven't quite been explained what is going on, and you're actually a little scared of seeing all the masks and hearing, you know, bits and pieces on the news, you know, you walk into a room that's full of class of energy and everyone else seems to be happy and carefree, you're going to feel very afraid. And because of that, you might also not want to share. And we talked about that connection, and to bring everyone together, my first step would be assessing where everyone is at and making sure that that person who maybe feels scared can comfortably share that, and might find out that she or he is not alone, but also that, you know, that they will be supported by the people around them, and not to be afraid of the people around them and afraid to seem weak, because that's not the case. It's very reasonable to feel all of these emotions, and especially so during something like what we've gone through. So to me, the most important thing as an educator would be really identifying where my students were at, where, you know, they need help the most. And I'm going to take a wild guess, but right at the beginning, it's probably not going to be with their dance steps. I think you'll be more just bringing everyone in and making them feel safe at home and in somewhere that they probably did already, but just knowing more that the thoughts and the feelings that they may. And once we get to that place and the room is full of love, then we can start to work towards the next the next step, whatever that may be. So what it might be, I'm not sure. Are competitions happening? I really haven't paid attention. I don't know. But that is truly what needs to be prioritized. And you know, it's a gift that we're given as educators, but it's a privilege that we get to be those leaders for these children, and or adults, because you know, some of my favorite students are my adult students. So yeah.
And that led us to one other discovery, which was talking about the self-care that we give ourselves as the educator. The studio owner, the choreographer, the director, the lead parts where we're wearing managerial heads and we run around and then we race in and then, oop, here I am. And I haven't taken the time to do my own self-care. And I expect my body to just respond, and it might not want to respond either, because it also is stressed out about these children are all in a line, those rows can't touch each other, we have to interact differently with our choreographies, and it is a very stressful time. So I'm just going to bring light to the discussions that are happening all week, the tools that are being shared, and that it is our time as educators and as dancers to take the time to make sure we do our self-care. And when we walk in to perform, to learn, to grow, that we really are in the place to properly do that. And so I'm hoping people will be inspired to think a little bit differently and do the slow down too, going into their activities.
Well, and that could be the other side of what we were just talking about, is the kids might all be fine and the teacher is really terrified of what's going on in the world right now. And as I've found out time and time again, kids are so smart and they pick up on that immediately. So yeah, what you're doing this week and making sure that we are slowing right down and looking inwards at ourselves and healing and nourishing our souls, our bodies, our minds, so that when we step into a classroom, we are 100% and completely there for what needs to happen that day. Not the agenda we might want to get done, but what needs to happen that day. And I know mentally I've struggled to keep that together through this time. But I also think that I am a lot stronger now than I was at the beginning, because of being forced to really sit with my thoughts and address some of the things that I noticed within myself. And I had the time to start to correct and make the changes I needed. So, you know, even though it's not perfect and it's still a work in progress, I'm now in a much better position to be better at what I need to be, and for who I need to be, which is only going to make a much larger difference in the impact that I can have. And that is what you're doing, and that is such a beautiful gift to be able to give to people who I think, especially in the dance world, it is go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. And we really, you know, then we get to summer vacation and we relax, 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 but we're just so depleted. We just are recharging. At no point there are we still actually healing ourselves or working on ourselves. And that's it's as much a full-time commitment as anything else. You need to do it day in and day out. And I know lots of people use different tools for that, but there are so many tools, and you are sharing many of them this week that are even simpler than you know, doing yoga every day or whatever else it may be. So to listen and just to take advantage of all that's being shared is so important.
Beautiful.
So thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. This is
and I'm not just saying this because you're my mom. For the record, audience members.
I didn't pay you for this.
No one to disagree. But it is. Sorry?
I was going to say it's a pleasure to be able to have a discussion like this because we both do work in the industry, but we work in different parts of the industry. And it's nice to be able to reflect on the experiences that we have and what we do know from our time and from our injuries and our recoveries. So, yeah.
Yeah. No.
And I can say, you know, I do the work every day. I work diligently to take care. But even by the time I got to March, my frozen shoulder was frozen. It was not moving. And I really seriously thought I had ripped something. And it's taken 4 months for my tissue in my body, even though I'm working on every day, for it to relax enough that I actually have full mobility back and I know there is no tear in there. So that's how much the stress of what we do can really take over. And when we push through, which is dancers are trained, push through, get that show, make sure you do what you need to do. Sometimes we just really aren't listening. So I hope that people have the chance to take the time now, especially as we go into August and it's always beautiful weather and the chance to still continue to rejuvenate and energize. So
that's right. We might be, you know, the restrictions might be lifting, but this is the most important time to get out there and just enjoy family and summer and warm weather. Especially if you're Canadian listening to this, you know, cold weather is around the corner.
that's right.
But truly, yeah, just because this is all starting to lift off doesn't mean we need to rush back in. We can still continue to take deep breaths and enjoy this downtime, and hopefully remember that the downtime is so important. I know you were saying with your shoulder, but for me, when this started in March, and that was really the end of, for me, about, I would say, a solid 4 years of nonstop. I could barely, you know, bend my knees when I got out of bed in the morning, and I'm back to being able to function without pain, which is much nicer. But I'm not rushing back to getting back to a busy schedule that's going to reverse that. Exactly. I want these knees to last. I want them to be able to move and dance as long as I can.
Exactly. Thank you so much. And
you're welcome. Thank you for having me. Good luck with the rest of the week of healing and tidbits. And I know I'll be in there at points when I can listening. So if you're not there, or you haven't been there yet, make sure you join us because it's going to be great.
Thanks. All right.